Hello everyone, welcome to LUKMAAN IAS. So today we are going to have the Hindu newspaper analysis of 23rd of June 2021. So now let us quickly see the topics that we will cover during the day. We are going to understand about this particular article that says right to life should take priority. And this topic is important under Indian polity section, where we are going to discuss about National Human Rights Commission and United Nations Human Rights Council. Okay. The second topic that we are going to cover is about world's first genetically modified rubber sapling planted in the state of Assam. This is a very important topic from prelims point of view, and this will be under science and technology section. After then we are going to understand about third topic that says House Panel for a Study on Malnutrition. So we are going to understand some aspect related to health and society. This is again very important topic for prelims as well as for mains exam. Then we are going to look into policy creep. This topic is important under economy section and under information technology governance. Okay. Then we are going to understand about countering a political act that has a legal garb. This particular topic is also important under the Indian polity section. So now let us take the first topic for the day. Okay, so this topic is one of the most important topic for the day where we are going to understand some important aspects. Okay, so name of the topic is right to life should take priority. It was said by the National Human Rights Council. Okay, so what was the context in which this particular thing was said? Recently, the chairperson of the National Human Rights Council, he is Justice Arun Kumar Mishra. Okay, so Justice Arun Kumar Mishra was attending an online session on the topic of states' response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, as part of the 47th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council. Okay, so while attending that particular session, Justice Arun Kumar Mishra has highlighted that right to life should prevail over the right to patent holders, so that life-saving medicines and vaccines for COVID-19 would be available to the poor. Okay, so here Justice Arun Kumar Mishra has highlighted the importance of making available the life-saving drugs related to COVID-19, and he has said that right to life must prevail over right of the patent holders of these drug manufacturers. Okay, so in this context we are going to understand about what is National Human Rights Council, and we are going to understand about United Nations Human Rights Council. Okay, so these are two important bodies that are very important for us to understand for the prelims as well as for the mains exam. Okay, so when we talk about National Human Rights Commission, okay, this is NHRC, National Human Rights Commission. It is a statutory body. What do we mean by statutory body? Those bodies that are established under our law. Okay, so Parliament makes a law. After making that particular law, they establish an institution, they establish a body that is known as a statutory body. Okay, so National Human Rights Commission is a statutory body, and it was established in the year of 1993 under the Protection of Human Rights Act. Okay, 1993. So what is the name of the law under which the National Human Rights Commission was established? This is the name of the law, which is Protection of Human Rights Act 1993, and later on this particular Protection of Human Rights Act was amended in the year of 2006. Okay, and this National Human Rights Commission is an embodiment of India's concern for the promotion and protection of the human rights. Okay, Section 2 Clause 1 Subclause D of the Protection of Human Rights Act defines human right. Okay, so what is the definition of human rights? So as per Section 2 Clause 1 Subclause D of the Protection of Human Rights Act, human right is defined as the rights relating to life, liberty, equality and dignity of the individual, guaranteed by the Constitution or embodied in the international covenants and enforceable by the courts in India. Okay, so this was the definition that was given by the Protection of Human Rights Act about what are human rights. Okay, so this is all about the National Human Rights Commission. Now let us understand about the other body, which is United Nations Human Rights Council. Okay, so why we are studying about United Nations Human Rights Council? Because of its context in the present, current affairs. Because Justice Arun Kumar Mishra, who is the chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, has participated in the 47th session of the National Human Rights of the United Nations Human Rights Council. Okay, so that's why it becomes important for us to understand about this particular body. This is the logo of this body, United Nations Human Rights Council. Okay, so let us understand about this body. So this United Nations Human Rights Council is a United Nations body whose mission is to promote and protect human rights around the world. The council has 47 members elected for a staggered 3-year terms. Okay, so this particular council has 47 members in all, and these members are elected on a staggered basis for 3 years term. Okay, on a regional group basis, and its headquarters is located in Geneva, Switzerland. And the parent organization of the United Nations Human Rights Council is United Nations General Assembly. Okay, so what we have learned in this particular article, we have learned that the right of life of people must prevail over right of the patent holder. So this was one of the viewpoint that was said by the chairperson of the United Nations, chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission, okay, of India. And in this context, we have understood what is National Human Rights Commission, and we have also understood about United Nations Human Rights Council. Okay, so having understood this, let us take the next topic for the day. Okay, this topic is again very important. Okay, I am going to tell why this topic is important. Okay, so let us just read the heading first. It says, world's first genetically modified rubber sapling planted in the state of Assam. Okay, it was planted in Assam. Now see, if you see previous year question papers of UPSC prelims, you will come across that they are asking many questions from agriculture section. Every year they are asking questions from different areas, like they are asking about sugarcane. They are asking questions from different kinds of mustard varieties. They are asking about pulses like green gram, black gram and all. So this is one of the crop varieties that you should be focusing on. And why it is important? Because world's first genetically modified rubber crop has been planted in the state of Assam. Okay, so that's why the rubber as a crop is important. Okay, so rubber as an agricultural activity is important for you. Okay, and we should also understand about this genetically modified rubber. Okay, so let us understand what is the context in which this particular article was in news. So a rubber board research farm on the outskirts of Guwahati. Where is Guwahati? Guwahati is in the state of Assam. This is one of the district. Okay, now sports the world's first genetically modified rubber plant tailored for the climatic conditions of northeast. You might be knowing that rubber is cultivated in warm and humid areas. Okay, so it requires more temperature. And if we talk about northeastern states, they receive heavy rainfall, so the temperature remains cool most of the time in the year. So rubber plantation was hitherto, means earlier it was very difficult for northeastern region. And because of this particular genetically modified crop, they are now in a position that they can grow rubber crop in their region. Okay, so it opens up a new opportunity for the northeastern India. Okay, so that's why it becomes an important crop. Okay, so now let us understand about genetically modified rubber crop. Okay, so the genetically modified rubber has additional copies of the gene. What is the name of the gene? Name of the gene is MN-SOD. Okay, what is MN-SOD? MN-SOD is manganese containing superoxide dismutase. Okay, its name is manganese containing superoxide dismutase. Okay, so this is known as MN-SOD in short. So genetically modified rubber crop has this particular gene, additional copies of this particular gene. Okay, inserted in the plant, which is expected to tide over the severe cold conditions during winter, which is a major factor affecting the growth of young rubber plants in the region. Okay, so this plant was developed at the Kerala based Rubber Research Institute of India. Okay, where it was developed? It was developed in the Rubber Research Institute of India, which is located in the state of Kerala. Okay, Kerala is a southern state in India, but like it has been planted in the northeastern state of Assam. Okay, so natural rubber, so if we talk about natural rubber is a native of warm humid Amazon forest and is not naturally suited. Okay, it is not naturally suited for colder conditions in the northeast, which is one of the largest producers of rubber in India. Okay, so laboratory studies conducted at the this particular thing, RRII stands for Rubber Research Institute of India. Okay, so they have conducted a study and they have done research in this particular institute, and they showed the genetically modified crop plants overexpress the MN-SORT gene as expected. Okay, so here what is the crux of this article? The crux of this article is you should study about rubber as a crop. Okay, you should study about what is the climatic conditions in which rubber can be grown, and this genetically modified rubber crop is going to be beneficial for the northeastern states because now it is going to have higher yield even in the colder conditions. Okay, so having understood this, now let us take another question for another topic for the day. Okay, this is also a very important topic for the day. Let us understand why. Okay, so recently a house panel for the study on malnutrition. Okay, so this was an article that was there in the Hindu newspaper. Okay, so according to this article, data is needed to assess the impact of COVID-19 on stunting and wasting. Okay, so here we need to understand what is stunting and what is wasting. Stunting means the height of a children is less than what it should be as per his age. Okay, let's consider there is a child. Okay, there is a child and the height of the child is very low as compared to the age of the child. The child is growing in terms of age, but his height is not growing. That is known as stunting. What do we mean by wasting? Wasting means there is a child whose height is proper as per his age, but his weight is not proper, means like he is very thin. Okay, so the child is very thin as per his height or age. Okay, that is known as wasting. Stunting means height is low as compared to age. Wasting means weight is low as compared to the height of the children. Okay, so this is the thing. So why it was a news? Because recently a parliamentary panel has asked the Ministry of Women and Child Development to conduct the impact of pandemic, okay, on Anganwadi services and malnutrition levels among the children. Okay, here we need to understand that through Anganwadi services the government of India distributes staple food to the children, okay, in the rural areas and in some urban localities. So Anganwadi plays a very crucial role in maintaining the nutrition level of the rural and urban poor families and their kids. Okay, so that's why here recently a parliamentary panel has asked the Ministry of Women and Child Development to conduct a survey to showcase like what was the impact of COVID-19 on the Anganwadi services. Okay, so here what was the name of the parliamentary committee? The name of the parliamentary committee was Parliamentary Standing Committee on Education, Women, Children, Youth and Sports. Okay, so this was the name of the parliamentary committee that has asked for a survey to be conducted by the Ministry of Women and Child Development. And so what has happened? Now they want that they should have proper data to showcase what is the what is the status of stunting and wasting among the children in India. And apart from this, the government of India has also launched an application. Name of the application is Poshan Tracker. This is one of the crux point of this particular article. You should remember the name of this this application. This is Poshan Tracker. What is Poshan Tracker? This particular application monitors delivery of services, okay, at the 14 lakh Anganwadis. Okay, Anganwadis are those places from where food is distributed to the child in rural and urban areas. Okay, so this is a government scheme. Okay, and this panel what has happened, recently there was cases in the Supreme Court of India where like petitioners has asked that like many children are getting orphaned due to COVID-19, and these children are not getting proper food and proper nutrition from any sources. So now it becomes important that the Supreme Court or different courts should look into the status of this Anganwadi services of the government, whether officials are working, whether food is being distributed or not. So in one of the petitions, like in one of the arguments, this particular this particular panel, which is Parliamentary Standing Committee on Education, Women, Children and Youth and Sports, they have disbelief on the data given by the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. Okay, it is known as NCPCR. So NCPCR has submitted that like only few thousand, only like 3,500 children were orphaned during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, if we go by the real data, lakhs of people have died. Okay, since lakhs of people have died, okay, who were of adult age, so the number of orphaned children should also come in lakhs. Okay, should also come in lakhs. But like National Commission for the Protection of Child Right has submitted to the court that only 3,500 children were orphaned due to COVID-19. So that's why it becomes important that like government as well as various committees should look into this aspect. And apart from this, the government has announced a corpus of 10 lakh rupees, okay, from the PM Care Funds. Government has announced that like all those children who are getting orphaned because of COVID-19, if their parents are dying, in that case, those children will be given 10 lakh rupees each from the PM Cares Fund. But the government has not taken any stand on this particular issue. Government has not started distribution of the amount. So that's why courts have taken strong measures, and courts are asking the government what measures they have taken, okay, to actually curb this particular issue, okay, to curb the malnutrition related issues in different areas in India. Okay, so having understood that topic, now let us take another topic for the day. This is going to be the fourth topic. Here we are going to understand about policy creep. Okay, so this is name of an article that appeared in the Hindu newspaper on 23rd of June. And so this article says over-regulation risk retarding growth and job creation in the e-commerce sector. Okay, so this article actually poses a concern. What concern? It says that if government goes for over-regulation of different e-commerce sectors, then it can have negative repercussions, because the job creation will decline, and at the same time economic growth will retard. It is going to retard, it is going to slow down. So here in this perspective we are going to understand about this particular article. Okay, so what is the context? You might be knowing that recently the government of India had come up with rules that is known as Consumer Protection E-commerce Rules 2020. Okay, so under the Consumer Protection E-commerce rules, the government of India has put forward few rules for the e-commerce entities. But just within 11 months of passing that particular rule, the government of India has come up with some kind of amendments into the rule, and this amendment seems to be more stern. It seems to be more regulatory in nature, that gives very little free hand to the e-commerce players in the market. Okay, so now let us talk about what can be the impact of this particular thing. Okay, so what are the areas in which this amendment is going to affect, okay, the e-commerce sector in India. So one of the thing is like among the norm is stipulating, so it requires, the amendment requires an appointment of chief compliance officer. Okay, it requires that every e-commerce entity should appoint a chief compliance officer. Apart from this, they should also appoint a nodal contact person for 24/7 coordination with the law enforcement agencies. And they also require e-commerce entities offering imported goods or services to incorporate a filter mechanism to identify the goods based on the country of origin and suggested alternative to ensure a fair opportunity for domestic goods. What do we mean by this? It simply means the government of India is regulating these e-commerce entities, and government is making mandatory that these e-commerce entities should actually bifurcate the imported goods and the domestic goods. So government wants that a mechanism should be in place so the imported goods that are being sold on the e-commerce portal should be labeled as imported goods. And at the same time, the government has suggested these entities that they should bring an alternative so that domestic goods can be promoted. Okay, and at the same time, you might be knowing that these e-commerce entities have different mechanism of selling their goods at a fast pace, and one of the mechanism that these entities follow is fallback liability. Okay, we will talk about it. Then we have back-to-back sales related thing. Okay, what happens? Many a times, let's consider Flipkart is there, Amazon is there. Okay, they come up with flash sales. I mean, on a particular day, on a particular hour, let's consider on 25th of June, 10 a.m. they are going to sell a particular kind of a smartphone, and that smartphone will be priced at a very low cost. And if it is priced at a very low cost, what is going to happen? Then there is going to be huge number of orders for this for that particular good, and so back to back delivery of the good may become difficult. And in that case, if it is not delivered, then the people who are involved in delivering the thing, I mean, like there are some walkmen, some people who are employed in this particular activity, they do not get their sufficient share. Okay, so here government wants to make it sure that fallback liability should be taken by the e-commerce entity itself. I mean, if goods are not delivered on time by the delivery people, okay, because it was not available, in that case the liability should be taken by the e-commerce entity itself. Okay, so this is another thing. And apart from this, under this particular amendment, the government also requires that these e-commerce entities must provide information within 72 hours on any requests that are made by law enforcing agencies. Means like if a law enforcing agency makes any request for any kind of information, that information must be provided within 72 hours. Okay, means within 3 business days. Okay, like within 72 hours of any request made by an authorized government agency. Okay, so these are some of the some of the things that this particular government regulation tries to bring. Apart from this, here we need to understand that Government of India has recently came up with another similar law, which is known as IT, Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code Rules 2020. Okay, so under this particular rule, the Government of India wants to, okay, what it wants to do, it wants to actually regulate the online intermediary platforms, right? They can regulate the messaging platforms also, like WhatsApp, Facebook or Twitter, like that. Okay, and similarly here the government of India has come up with another rule that actually regulates the e-commerce entities. Okay, so the fact that the latest changes expressly seek to ensure that none of an e-commerce entities related parties and associated enterprises enlisted as a seller for sale to consumers directly. So what is happening over here? On one hand, there is e-commerce entity that is reselling the goods. Reselling means the e-commerce entity, they do not have their own goods. Okay, so the goods are being sold by third party through the e-commerce platform. So e-commerce is acting as an intermediary. Okay, it is acting as an intermediary. So what is happening? People are enlisting their goods into the e-commerce platform, and after their goods are enlisted in the e-commerce platform, this is being sold to the to the consumers. But here the government wants to make it sure that those entities who are getting their goods enlisted into the e-commerce, they should not be registered directly as a seller to the consumer. They should not be registered as a direct seller to the consumer, because they are selling through the e-commerce portal. So there is a routing of the goods. Okay, so this is the thing. Here the author says, like, if we go for more regulation of these e-commerce entities, then it is going to have a negative impact on the creation of jobs, and at the same time it is going to have a negative impact on the economic growth. So economic growth will decelerate. It means the economic growth will come down. Okay. So that's why this article becomes important for you to write an answer on this particular aspect. Now let us take the last question topic for the day, and this topic is about countering a political act that has a legal garb. Okay, legal garb. So here this particular article focuses on the Sedition Act. The Act of Sedition means, like, you know, section 124A of Indian Penal Code. Okay, so this entire article puts a very, you know, in-depth case study into this particular act, which is sedition. This particular sedition section 124A of Indian Penal Code. We are going to discuss about why it is a very important article, because like it has given historical perspective, and it has also mentioned about different case laws before independence and after independence. Okay, so it is a very important article. So let us understand what is the context in which this article was there in news. Okay, recently Aisha Sultana, okay, this is the name of a woman. Okay, she is a filmmaker from Lakshadweep. She was recently, okay, booked for the alleged offences of sedition and statements prejudicial to the national integrity. Means this Aisha Sultana, she might have made some statement, and on that particular statement the government has interpreted this thing as a statement which is prejudicial to the national integrity, and they have booked, means like they have filed a case against Aisha Sultana under section 124A of the Indian Penal Code. Okay, so when they have filed this particular case, okay, Aisha Sultana has approached the Kerala High Court, and she has asked the High Court to allow her a pre-arrest, you know, bail, and so Kerala High Court has allowed her an interim bail in this perspective. Okay, and this Miss Sultana's case is a case study for those who are concerned with the country's liberal values. Okay, now we are going to understand how a democracy, okay, democracy that should guarantee individuals' right to freedom of speech and expression is actually, you know, hampering someone's freedom of speech and expression by using a particular law that is draconian in nature, that actually impacts and hampers the freedom of the exercise of the freedom of speech and expression. Okay, so let us understand a brief background about this IPC section. Okay, so the offense of sedition under section 124A of the Indian Penal Code was inserted in the code in the year of 1870. Okay, so this particular code belongs to 1870, and you know, the Indian Penal Code was made by the Britishers when they were ruling in India. Okay, so now here we need to understand that this particular law is a pre-independent law. It was enacted by the Britishers, but Britishers themselves have repealed this particular law in 1961 in Britain. Okay, but India still continues to have this particular law. Now let us understand some details about this, this particular act, and we are going to take some lessons from history. Okay, so what has happened in the year of 1922? There was a great trial that involved Mahatma Gandhi, and Mahatma Gandhi was also charged with sedition under section 124A of Indian Penal Code. Okay, and so in that particular charge, Mahatma Gandhi has described the provision as perhaps the prince among the political sections of the Indian Penal Code, designed to suppress the liberty of the citizens. Gandhiji himself was a lawyer, and he made 2 points in the statement given on March 18 to 1922. Okay, so Mahatma Gandhi was tried under the same section, section 124A of Indian Penal Code, and Mahatma Gandhi has said that this particular section is prince among all the sections in the Indian Penal Code, and he has made 2 statements. One of the statement, he said he admitted that the charge of preaching disaffection towards the then existing regime. Okay, so here Mahatma Gandhi has accepted that he has preached disaffection against the colonial government at that point of time. And second thing that Mahatma Gandhi said, he justified his act and said that it was his duty to do so, as it is a sin to have affection for the system under the British law. Okay, means there the Mahatma Gandhi was firm. He was he was firm that like the Britishers are not doing any good to the society. So he has said like it is a sin if I show some affection towards the government that is ruling us. Okay, and he explained that affection cannot be manufactured or regulated by law. One has no affection for a person or system. One should be free to give the fullest expression to his dissatisfaction so long he does not contemplate, promote and incite to violence. Here Mahatma Gandhi has categorically said like if someone really does not like a government, so he should be free to criticize the government as well. Okay, and he should not be punished under this particular section if he did not incite any violence. Okay, so that was the standpoint of Mahatma Gandhi in this particular case. Okay, now we are going to take another case, and this particular case is from post-independent India. Okay, this particular thing is from post-independent India. So what has happened here? This statement did not have only political, it was not only a political statement, but it was legal as well, because Gandhiji was a lawyer and he has put his viewpoint in legal terms. Okay, so recently what has happened, the Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court of India in the Kedarnath Singh case in 1962 said that incitement to violence is the gist of offense of sedition. Supreme Court has said like there should be incitement of violence. Okay, only mere expression of criticism to the government does not include sedition. Okay, so this was said by the Supreme Court Constitutional Bench in Kedarnath Singh case in 1962, and this particular proposition of the Supreme Court was followed by the Supreme Court in the Binod Dua case in 2021 as well. And if we take another case from pre-independent India, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, okay, he was tried under sedition in 1897, and he was accused that the articles in Kesari, which was a Marathi newspaper that was owned by Bal Gangadhar Tilak, incited violence that led to killing of 2 British officers. Okay, then Tilak was sent to jail for rigorous imprisonment of 18 months. Okay, then after in 1908 he was again tried and later sentenced for writing seditious articles and by connecting them with certain instances of social disorder. Okay, and if we take lessons from post-independent India, okay, there is a body in India that is known as National Crime Records Bureau, NCRB. Okay, National Crime Records Bureau is a body under the Ministry of Home Affairs, and this particular body publishes report frequently, and that report actually talks about what is the status of crime in India. This particular report takes data from 2016 to 2019. It said that there is an 160% increase in the registration of sedition cases. Means earlier if the registration of sedition cases was 100, now we have 260 cases that are being registered. Means there is an 160% rise in the number of cases. Okay, earlier the conviction rate in these cases were 33.3%. Now the conviction rate is just 3.3%. Okay, so here we need to understand that the government of India is not using the cases of sedition rationally. Okay, so there is no rational usage of the cases of sedition. Okay, now let us understand some more cases related to this particular thing. In post-independent, okay, in Kedarnath Singh case of 1962 that we have talked earlier, okay, he was charged because like he talked about a revolution in the flames of which the capitalist zamindars and the Congress leaders of India will be reduced to the ashes. The court has said that comments, howsoever is strongly worded, expressing disapprobation of actions of the government without exciting those feelings which generate inclination to cause public order by acts of violence would not be penal. Simply, the Supreme Court of India has said, like, you can have very strong worded criticism against the government, but if that criticism is not associated with violence, okay, then it should not be considered as a a crime under the section of section 124A of IPC. Okay. Again, in the Balwant Singh case of 1995, slogans for an independent Sikh nation were found to be not seditious for want of the ingredient of incitement of violence. Okay. So here, this is another case, Balwant Singh case of 1995. Okay. So at last, the author suggests few things that should be done so as to actually, so as to curb the inappropriate usage of the sedition charges. The author says the clear political object behind the invocation of the law is to create an atmosphere of fear. Okay, why the government is using this sedition charges again and again? Because they want to create an atmosphere of fear among the people. Okay, this is a way in the price which the country has to pay for the retention of the law of sedition, among other draconian laws. Means like, if this particular law is kept in the statute books, okay, so this is the price that the people have to pay. They have to stay in an atmosphere of fear. So therefore, the author suggests few ways. The author suggests that the Supreme Court of India and the High Courts should take suo motu cognizance. Okay, so these courts should take suo motu cognizance of the incidents where the state ostensibly uses draconian laws to suppress criticism and protest. Okay, this is difficult but not impossible. Such suo motu proceedings would affect the kind of judicial activism that our time demands, and the organized bar, especially at the state level, must perform its libertarian role by constantly demanding for a judiciary that values freedom and acts for it. Okay, here he is asking these constitutional courts to act in a suo motu manner so that like they can curb inappropriate usage of this particular sedition charges. So that's all that I had to discuss with you for the day. Thank you so much everyone for attending this session. I hope you have a good day ahead. Thank you.